Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so in this message, I'm picking up on a masculine energy, and there might be more than one masculine energy here, but I'm picking up on the one where you felt a very natural, strong, intense, passionate, emotional, smexual connection with. And it seems to me that this guy needs to turn a corner in his soul. And this is like karmically. And this goes way beyond your relationship. This is just overall karmically. This is where he's at in his spiritual journey. He needs to turn a corner in his soul. And I feel like this guy has ran out of road in some capacity. And he's really kind of pushed the limits and tested the patience of the universal forces and his spirit guide team, because this has to do with his behavior towards women and confronting his own secretive, clandestine existence. There's not a lot of tolerance here because he needs to learn how to be honest. It's not necessarily that he needs to choose a monogamous life and feel like he's ready to settle down. That's not really the issue here. He can do that in his own time, but he needs to be honest with everybody involved about who he is, what he wants, and what he's got going on, because there are other souls involved in this, and it seems like most of those are women. And because of the way he's behaving, these women that he involves with receive the negative consequences of his terrible choices, of his selfishness. And that's kind of a state of injustice here, karmically speaking. And we go through these periods, and they're showing me kind of a cul-de-sac, where it rounds out at the end. So it's like he's got that kind of room here. He's got a little bit of room to turn his car around. And that's like the cul-de-sac that I'm seeing. Like, that is the period of injustice. It is not infinite. He's given a little bit of room here, but I think he's really tested the limits. And so there is some type of enforcement going on with this man because of the effect and the impact that it could potentially have on the souls that are kind of around him and that he's not treating very well. And I feel like in meeting you and feeling that intense, kind of passionate connection, I feel like that has triggered this kind of karmic enforcement process to start. And I feel like he's really being confronted with his own karmas. I just heard, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. But I don't think that he quite sees it that way, because I feel like there's been actually multiple times in your relationship, whether you know it, whether he knows it, where he has been confronted with his own secretive behavior. And he's been confronted in terms of seeing it in some way, like through you or around you, or thinking that he's seeing something like that through you and around you. And these are periods of judgment. It is like a karmic test, some kind of karmic judgment. It's like the weighing of his heart against a feather. It's those kind of moments where the decisions that he makes about how he handles himself and how he handles those situations, it really does have great bearing in terms of like the karmas that play out between the two of you and the karmas around like the next chapter of his life. But it feels like there's segments of this before things are kind of like finally over. But I think this has happened like more than once. And I do think on his side of it, there is a bit of an intelligence test going on here, because he's meant to learn that you give what you get. And part of that is because he has been involved in this very like turnover guy kind of culture. And it is very secretive. It's very clandestine. And it's like he's marinating in a different way of being. Like, there's different skills involved in like hookup culture than relationship culture on the surface. And I think he's kind of conflating the two, where maybe he hasn't actually had a relationship or serious relationships or something here. He struggles with relationships. But what I mean by there's a lot of conflation is because like you can do a lot of the same things, right? Like you kiss somebody that you just hook up with, but also somebody that you're in a relationship with. You do schmegs with them, right? So it seems kind of similar, but there's different skill sets, right? And the skill sets that he's been kind of marinating in are terrible. They're competitive, they're eroding, they're selfish. And when you try to apply them in a relationship space, which is the space that you kind of occupy, everything kind of falls apart, because he needs to be meeting this with like healthy communication skills and understanding and compassion and being there for you. And so there's like some kind of karmas that are playing out here, and it's in this like relationship dynamic, because upon meeting you, I feel like, again, he felt this intensity, but it kind of split his soul in two, because on the one hand, he wants to continue playing the field. And on the other hand, he wants this passionate, intense connection with you. And I think he knows something about maybe your traditionality. You grew up in a traditional household with like some kind of traditional outlook for your life. He knows something about your morals and your principles where you want a monogamous, committed relationship. He knows that about you, or he should know that about you. And that shapes up, I think, to be the first kind of karmic test here, where he's got this decision to make about how he's going to handle that. And it has to do with not being strategic and instead being very direct and honest and making a decision and having some kind of direct, honest conversation. And that is with you and or somebody here, or maybe multiple people that he is hooking up with behind the scenes. Now, what I'm really picking up on is at some point in your relationship, and relationship might be too strong a word here because maybe for some of you, this didn't even get to the relationship phase, but for others of you, it definitely was a relationship. And for others of you, it was a relationship and you guys broke up. But at some point here in like your journey together, in one of these like kind of karmic testing moments, this man decided that he wanted to hurt you. And he decided that he wanted to hurt you because he felt hurt by you. And that might confuse you. And you might be wondering, if he felt hurt by you, why he didn't say anything. Well, because this is like the karmic test, and he's not good at relationships, and that would be a relationship skill. So he felt hurt by you because it's something here to do with like what he observed. And it's kind of the culmination or like a nexus point of this like low vibrational scorpionic energy that he is in. And we have to kind of understand that to see what he saw, because what he saw is not true to reality. And then what he did with that information, right? So what I mean by like in the low vibrational scorpionic energy is like Scorpio has levels to it. So the lowest level of Scorpio is the scorpion itself. And it's the lowest because the scorpion can't see very far. It can only see what's right in front of its face. And it's a very reactionary energy, and it's very tit for tat. So it'll just react and sting you, and it stings to kill. The next level up is the eagle, which is it's detached from that like reactionary space. It can see for miles. It's much more intelligent. And then at the top, you have the phoenix. And so when this guy was observing you, I think what he saw was you were either comforting someone else or someone else was comforting you. And there's something karmic about that, like him witnessing that as well, because of the context situation where it's like he should have known better than to jump to some type of conclusion. But it's either because he should have known that you had something going on in your life, something that he should have known about. And so when he saw that, he would have known, oh, of course, this person needs support. I also think there's something karmic because you were dealing with something here that A, he should have known about, but B, he should have been there for. Like he should be the one helping you or comforting you. And he's not, because he's too busy trying to hold on to this like clandestine thing. And I think there might be a timing thing where he knew he needed to pursue something with you, but you needed some type of assistance. So, yeah, there is something karmic about him not having the proper context. It also could be maybe he waited to pursue a relationship with you so that he could try to dick off, and he didn't know about like your morals or your traditional values or like the way that you are. And it's kind of ridiculous for him to think that you are doing whatever it was that he thought you were doing. So this is a karmic judgment upon him because of when he's in this low vibrational scorpionic energy. It has to do with like him observing you, and he's trying to pay attention to the details, but because he's in the scorpion energy, he doesn't have like the context. And so he's getting very reactionary, and he wants to like sting to kill. And that's when he decided to hurt you, right? And to kill, right? I don't think he realized that this is going to like end your relationship or something here. But that's when I feel like he popped up into like the eagle version, which seems like it's a good thing because he's like elevating, but it's like the worst thing that could have happened because he was in the scorpion energy in the exact wrong moment. And then he's in the eagle moment in the exact wrong moment, because it's like he was detached from his emotions. But this is the kind of guy that's like, oh, I'm not emotional. I'm very logical. Pfft, no, he's not. This is the most emotional. This man is hurt. Okay. Because there's a lot of emotions between the two of you. You feel very deeply for each other. So he's hurt. And that's part of the karmic test. That's a relationship skill. You have to take responsibility for your thought processes, your emotions, your internal self. You have to be able to manage that so that you can then have a healthy conversation with your partner. So he needed to deal directly with his hurt and say, my God, I'm hurt. And then he needed to seek out context, right? by having a direct conversation with you and just ask you something here outright, and maybe even like ask you to make a decision or something. But he didn't. Instead, he decided he wanted to hurt you, and he wanted to hurt you with this Queen of Wands. And I feel like it's somebody that, well, this could be a particular person that he's been hooking up with, but for some, he's just a player and he's just been hooking up on. So he decided that he wanted to get caught out doing something. He decided that he wanted to be seen. He wanted to be discovered. And I don't think that he put some kind of strategy together about like, you're going to discover us at 8 p.m. when you walk into this restaurant to go to this reservation. I don't think it was planned out like that. I think he just decided to be sloppy. And for some of you, he decided to rekindle something with someone that maybe he had cut things off with because you guys were shaping up to be in a relationship together, or you guys were in a relationship. And it could be that this Queen of Wands was already a problem between the two of you, especially if you were in a relationship. Either, again, you know, this man's a player. And so you guys had that conversation of like, we're in a monogamous relationship kind of thing. And he said, yeah, I'm cutting off like my options and my choices. You're cutting off your options and your choices. And we're going to be monogamous together. We're doing this together. Or it could have been this particular lady that was like hanging around. And you either knew that there had been some kind of schmegsual contact even before you guys were together, or like you could have known that there was cheating, or you just suspected. Because she also seems a certain way. So you could have suspected, and you knew that there were certain things that were being kept secret from. So for some of you, you broke up because of that. But for others of you, you had some type of conversation and he said, no, I'm cutting that off. Like, I'm going to end things. And I think for some of you, he did end things. And I think for some of you, he didn't. He just got more like secretive with it. But either way, when he decided that he wanted to hurt you, he either rekindled things with her, or he decided that he wanted that to be discovered. Because before he was this, I think this went on the whole time, to be honest. I'm so sorry if that hurts you. I think a lot of you already know. I think he was doing this the whole time, either with multiple people here, or like there's a certain person. But he was keeping it hidden. He was keeping it behind closed doors. He was intentionally, because he knew that that was the kiss of death for some reason. He knew that he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He knew that he wanted that part of his life, but he also knew that he wanted to pursue this intense, passionate relationship that he had with you, and that would be off the table if you knew that he was hooking up with other people. So intentionally, he kept that hidden. And when he decided he wanted to hurt you, he decided that he wanted that discovered. And I don't think that went well for him. Now he wanted for you to discover it. And then he wanted to, I think, make you cry. He wanted to like watch you cry. And he wanted to ricochet all of his hurt feelings. That's why, like, no, this man's like, what? I'm not emotional about the situation. I'm logical. No, he's not. He has emotions that he's not dealing with directly. And instead he's ricocheting all of them towards you. And he wants you to feel the exact way that he was feeling. He wants you to feel left out in the cold. He wants you to feel lacking or less than, because that's how he felt. He felt like he wasn't good enough. And he could have thought that like you were immoral, or that you were stepping out on their connection, or that you were non-traditional in a way that you weren't actually. It's just, and there's a judgment on that too, because that's all ego defense mechanism, where he's, and he wouldn't have thought that, I'm hearing, if he hadn't been involved with this lady behind the scenes, or like with multiple people here behind the scenes. But also he'd been marinating in this kind of turnover culture where I feel like there's a lot of cheating. He cheats on people. He's involved with people who cheat on people. So he thinks everybody's a liar and a cheat. And he's always on the lookout for it. This is karmic, where he's being confronted with his own bad behavior because it formed his mind in a certain way. And so he is kind of like defensive, where he's like, I knew it. But he's projecting what he's doing out on you, when I don't think you were actually doing anything wrong. I think that he just is categorizing it in a certain way, didn't have a direct conversation with you. And that possibly for some of you pushed you into the arms of somebody that you thought was like loving or helpful, but actually was just like him. That's another karmic thing here, because like that person was just like very strategic. Because I think, remember I said that I think there might be other masculine energies around. And I think weirdly that's karmic too, where if this man is holding on to options and he's got them kind of around you, where if he needs to pull them in as some kind of competition or hurt you in the way that he's decided to do now, I think spirit pulls one for one. Like if he's got one, spirit will pull one in for you. And so I do think that there's men here, it feels like multiple men, who know that this man is juggling and who have some kind of resentment about that, because I think they want you. Like they find you to be very attractive, and they can see that it's a very deep connection here. I feel like this is jealousy. They can see that. And I think they want to attribute it to some kind of superficiality here, but I don't think it actually is that. But they are kind of angry. So I think maybe some of these people might sabotage him. They want him to get caught. They're setting up things here in the background, but it's because they want you to run to them. And he is also playing into that. And he has this guy that you like. He needs to take ownership of, he should have been your sanctuary. He should have been like a safe, comforting place. He should have been there instead of out with whoever doing God knows what. And he wouldn't have pushed you into somebody's arms here that is very strategic. And I think he knows that, right? So I don't think this worked out the way that he thought that it was going to. And I think that it maybe for some of you permanently ended your relationship here, because what he thought was that it was strategic for him to be found out like this, because he wanted you to hurt and he wanted to see you cry. And it was like a power move. And maybe there's something here, maybe like public humiliation. And it feels again like that's self-defense. He is the one that wanted to cry. He's the one that felt hurt, and he didn't do that, but he wanted you to do that and for you to be seen that way and not him. And also he thought this was going to lead to some type of rebirth between the two of you, because he thought after you cried and everything and went to somebody else for some kind of support, that you guys would have an argument and it would lead to some kind of rebirth here, where he could then tell you some kind of truth. Or maybe he wanted you to get in a fight with her, which I just can't hold my tongue. A man is supposed to be a protector. And if this man's trying to get you in fights, no, we don't do that. So I hate this. And I feel like you hate this, but I feel like you actually stood strong. And you maybe did have some type of rebirth. For some of you, maybe you went back to an ex or something. I don't know. It feels like you sought comfort elsewhere. And it doesn't mean that for some of you, you went to some like other person or anything like that. But so there's karma going down here, because he was really, really trying to observe you. And he is failing at every turn because he refuses to have self-awareness. He is not aware at all, because I think it's pretty obvious that Spirit is just putting in his face whatever he's doing in secret behind the scenes. He's just seeing it played out like in front of you. And I think there might have been more than one of these moments. And for some, it's like he didn't heal your connection. So maybe he like went off with somebody else or something. Because I'm hearing, well, if it wasn't the consequences of my own actions. And maybe somebody else here like swooped in. But again, he had his chance. He could have mended things with you. He could have turned this corner in his soul. He could have had healthy relationship skills. He could have told you the truth about the fact that he's got other things going on here. He could have been direct and honest. Now, the last thing that I want to kind of loop this around to is, I remember reading this thing on Reddit like a while ago, and it was this guy, and I found it so profound because he was like very eloquently talking about the phases that men go through in their pursuit of women, because when they're young and their hormones are raging, right? Obviously they do want schmegs, and they're trying to figure out like how to be seen in that way and how to go about it. So he says the first stage is the nice guy stage, which we're all very familiar with, right? Like he's such a nice guy, but not really, because there's an agenda attached to it, and it is all about control. And it builds this resentment in a man because he's only being nice as a transactional thing. And when you don't look at him the way that you want, or you don't kiss him or let you into your apartment or do schmegs with him, he feels slighted and he feels like he's the victim, even though he is not. And it builds into this kind of like, well, why am I even nice anyways? Nice guys always finish last. It doesn't do me any good. And so he gets angry, and then he becomes the asshole, and he moves into the asshole phase. And I feel like this guy, and whatever's playing out here, it's like there's some type of continuum of like he was between the nice guy and the asshole, and like kind of flipping back and forth. And I weirdly think that for some of you, this man is like a seasoned player, so he just is an asshole. He can be as nice as he wants, but like that kind of behavior is the asshole, like not caring about people in that way, right? But I think maybe where he was the nice guy was the relationship side of things, because maybe he's not as strong in relationships and he doesn't know how to settle a relationship. He's like, okay, well, I think I should just be like really nice, you know? But one of the flaws with the nice guy phase is really what ends up happening is that guys are not direct with you. They're actually very indirect, and you're very confused because you're thinking, oh, I made this great new friend, and this is a guy who really cares about me. And so you think that you're building some kind of platonic connection, and then you end up feeling betrayed and backstabbed because you didn't realize that there was this like weird expectation, or you didn't know what he wanted. And I'm hearing from Ted Lasso, there's this scene between Keely and Roy when they're getting together. And Keely used to date this other guy, Jamie, and he was a bit of a douche. But when they're getting together, she says this line to Roy where she was like, I didn't know what you wanted, and I knew exactly what he wanted. So it's like with the nice guy phase, you really don't know what somebody wants, and everything is like really, really, I don't know, confused. Now, the asshole stage, like when a guy moves to the asshole stage, he starts like being an asshole, and he learns that gets him laid better than the nice guy phase ever did. And this guy was saying that a lot of men stay stuck in the asshole phase, and that's where you hear a lot that's wrong with our world, where they're like, girls just want assholes. They want to be treated badly. They really like that. And so I think for some of you, this guy could have been going back and forth between the asshole and the nice guy. And I think that's kind of indicative of him going back and forth between his clandestine player existence and the tactics he knows works there, but then also the nice guy existence. And again, you were just very confused. And I think you were very confused. But it also could be that there's these other guys around, and maybe he's in his nice guy phase because of the relationship thing, but then these guys are in their asshole phase. It's just confusing. You are just confused. So then he says there's the third and final stage that some men will get to, if he says, especially if they're like smart or they're like at all observant, where they finally realize that they're not being laid because they're being a jerk. They're being laid because in being the asshole and in not caring, they're actually being very direct. And they're just kind of saying exactly who they are and what they want. If they're not in a place to have a relationship, that's what they say. And it turns out women tend to like that. And then he says usually that third stage comes with a kind of reckoning, because a man, if he's not like a psychopath or anything, then he will realize that he's actually mistreated a lot of very beautiful, nice women, and that he was never actually nice to women ever. And that they didn't deserve the treatment that he gave to them, and that it makes total sense why they were confused or why they behaved the way that they did. And it has to do with him not being direct. And that loops all the way back around, because I feel like him turning this corner in his soul, it has to do with like not observing and being strategic from the scorpionic place of whatever he's seeing in front of him, and not putting something here into context. And I do think part of the context is just knowing how your mind works, and knowing that if you're doing fucked up shit, that it puts you in a place of ego defense mechanism. And ego defense mechanism is the state of narcissism. Narcissism is like somebody who entirely lives in a state of ego defense mechanism. So for some of you, you probably wonder if this man is a narcissist. For some of you, I think that he is. And for others of you, I think that he's just certainly acting like one, because he's just living in those state of ego defense mechanisms where he's in denial, he's lacking self-awareness, he's observing you in a hypercritical way, but not at all factoring in his own bullshit behavior and how that might be affecting this situation, where in ways of like how he's showing up for you emotionally and like the signals that he's giving to you, but also like where he is in space and time. Like having this, like again, it feels like there was something here going on that he should have known about. Some type of context about your life and what you were going through. And it actually, now when he looks at that situation, it makes perfect sense. And it was actually benign. But more than that, it should never have happened, because he should have been the one in that position. And he wasn't, because he was keeping something else here a secret. And so it falls back on him. And this is where if you believe in traditional gender roles and the man is the leader of the household, that's what a leader looks like. Somebody who takes responsibility for their actions, understands how their actions affect other people, not in a strategic, slimy way, but in a let's all rise together kind of way. And he needs to learn how to be that. And because he's trying to find out the truth here. And I do feel like there's some type of karmic cycle that is closing. I feel like he feels blocked off from you. He's confused because he's coming from this like low vibrational, kind of unskilled way, like in terms of navigating his own internal self. It feels like this guy's kind of a real coward. It feels like, the strength card and how that really has a lot to do with internal strength. It feels like he doesn't have that. He doesn't have this like nobility, but he feels he needs to fake it in order to, I don't know, turn this corner in his soul, but nobody's asking him to fake anything. Like his spirit guides are not asking him of that. He needs to kind of figure something out. They're also not asking monogamy of him. But he does need to be honest. He's being a little worm, and that's what's gross. So he needs to not be a worm. And and he spends so much energy like defending something here and like trying to make sure that people can't see certain aspects, and this includes you, that he doesn't leave his post and go hunt it, baby. He doesn't go hunt it. And it's kind of a turnoff. I actually feel like it's kind of a turnoff, and it's giving you like the wrong impression here. And you're like, I feel that you would like for me to be the man in this relationship. And I feel that you should be with a man if you want to be with a man. I also think that there's some type of, this Queen of Wands is going to be his undoing here, because she's gaining some type, she's got a plan of her own. And that's the other thing, where she's part of his karma too, where again, the universe is like, do you not see that we're just dishing to you what you dish out to other people? So he's got like this plan and he thinks he's got something here like all figured up and like tied up. Well, she's got her own plan here. And it feels like to trap him. Yeah, there's some kind of secret. Yeah. So he's like, I would love for this to be a secret. And she's like, me too. I love that we keep secrets from each other. I got a doozy coming at you. Yeah. Yes. When really, I think he needed to be in some kind of temperance energy. There's something so like, yeah. And I think he needed to bring like emotional temperance, even when he saw you like moving away, or he felt that you were moving away emotionally, even after you guys like broke up about something, he needed to calm down and he needed to have some type of direct conversation and be honest and say, I am a hoe. Okay. And I've been a hoe, but I really like you and I want to turn things around. I just don't know how to do that. And yeah, I don't know, like you guys can go from there. So you can at the very least be like, well, I'm not interested, in somebody that's doing the things that you're doing. I'm not interested. Okay. So yeah, I just pulled the King of Pentacles. I want a King of Pentacles. I want to work together. I want to build something up. Yeah. I don't want some type of accident to come through and like wipe away all my building. And for some of you, that's exactly what he experienced. So you didn't even necessarily need to say it, but he experienced it of like, this is why you don't have things going on in the background, because you can't ever be so controlled. This guy kind of thinks a lot of himself because he thinks he can control everything. And I think Spirit is reminding him that he can't, and there's also some misogyny here where he thinks he can control women. And I think that I remember I said this in another reading where you outplayed him, and I don't think you were even meaning to. I just think that you have internal strength and you have self-respect. And even if there was stuff that you couldn't see here, you knew that you weren't being treated the way a King of Pentacles would treat you, and that he was trying to pretend to be the King of Pentacles. You knew that. And whoever this is that he's like messing around with, she outplayed him too, because she's smarter than him and her plan was way better. And it went the way she wanted it to. His didn't. And it's because she's smarter. And so I think that he's maybe been misogynistic, and there is something karmic here about women kind of being his undoing and dominating him in some kind of way. So anyways, that was a bit of a long one, but that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.